parents threw me away at 7 in a park after my baby brother was born, and they decided 3 kids were too expensive. So my adoptive family, the Delgados, raised me, loved me, and when they both passed in a car accident, I inherited their family restaurant chain worth $4, $2 million. My biological parents, who I hadn't seen in 22 years, suddenly found my address and filed a lawsuit claiming they never legally relinquished parental rights and deserved compensation for their emotional suffering. The courtroom fell silent when the judge read their demand for $2,100,000, exactly half of everything I owned, everything the Delgados had built. My biological mother dabbed theatrically at dry eyes while my biological father adjusted his cheap suit, both performing their practiced roles of grieving parents reunited with their lost daughter. I sat perfectly still at the defendant's table, watching them, my face expressionless. My lawyer leaned toward me, whispering urgently that we needed to prepare a defense strategy, but I simply reached into my briefcase and withdrew a thick manila envelope, placing it deliberately on the table between us. The judge noticed the movement, his eyes narrowing with interest. What my biological parents didn't know, what nobody in that courtroom knew except me, was that I had spent the last 3 months since receiving their lawsuit doing something they clearly never bothered to do: actual research. The Delgados had taught me many things during the 22 years they raised me, but perhaps the most valuable lesson was their meticulous approach to documentation. Every receipt saved, every contract filed, every photograph dated and labeled. When I inherited their restaurant empire, I also inherited their obsessive organizational system, including a locked filing cabinet in their home office that I'd finally opened 2 weeks ago. Inside, I found adoption papers, legal documents, and most importantly, a private investigator's report from 1995, the year they adopted me. Apparently, Carlos and Rosa Delgado had wanted to understand exactly what kind of people would abandon a 7-year-old child in a public park, and they'd paid someone to find out. What that investigator discovered would have been useful information for my biological parents to consider before filing their frivolous lawsuit. The judge cleared his throat, drawing my attention back to the present moment. My biological mother was now testifying, her voice quivering with manufactured emotion as she described the unbearable pain of losing touch with me. She spoke of sleepless nights and endless tears, painting a picture of maternal devotion that would have been touching if it bore any resemblance to reality. My biological father nodded along supportively, adding his own embellishments about how they'd searched everywhere for me, how they'd never stopped hoping to reunite with their precious daughter. The performance was almost impressive in its audacity. Their lawyer, a slick-looking man with styled hair and an expensive watch, presented their case with practiced sympathy. He spoke about parental rights, about family bonds that transcend time and circumstance, about the deep psychological trauma my biological parents had suffered from our forced separation. He made it sound as though they'd been victims of some terrible injustice rather than people who'd made a calculated decision to reduce their household expenses by abandoning one of their children. I remembered that day in the park with crystalline clarity, though I'd spent years trying to forget it. My mother had
Click the link in my profile to watch the exciting follow-up.